Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another success story for you. So I want to introduce you to one of our successful students, Ahmed, who's going to share his story with you guys so that you can learn from him. So Ahmed, can you share a little bit about you first?
Okay, hi Chris, how are you? I'm happy to be with you in this video. My name is Ahmed Zaghloul. I'm from Egypt and I work as a software engineer here in Qatar.
Mhm. Excellent,
Yeah,
excellent. And can you tell people a little bit about your experience with the IELTS test?
right. So I started my IELTS journey in 2017. And as you know, as everyone else, the starting was not easy to find the right material and right courses and how to evaluate your current state and where you are going to, your objective and so on. So I struggled a lot at the beginning. First off, I started with a course on EDX provided by the University of Queens from Australia.
Hmm.
It was a very nice start, giving me a brief about the IELTS exam in general. And after the course, I started practicing the listening, reading, and writing on my own. And the most challenging part for me at this period was the speaking,
Hmm.
because I didn't find anyone to practice speaking with at the beginning. And when I sat for some evaluation in a test center here, they gave me maybe 5.5 or 6, and I was targeting 7. So until I found a website called Cambly, I worked on this website with some native speakers, IELTS tutors, and it helped a lot.
Hmm.
Okay, then for the writing part, I practiced a lot at this period. But the problem again is to get feedback from a tutor. I wasn't using Cambly for this at this period at all. So I was only working on my own. Then I set for the exam on January 2018. This was my first trial. I got a pretty good score at reading and reading and reading and listening. No, reading and speaking as well. I got 8.5 in reading,
Hmm.
and I got 7.5 in speaking.
Wow.
Yeah, but I was targeting 8 at listening, but I got 7 at this exam, and I was targeting 7 also at writing, and I got 6.
Okay.
So after the exam, I forgot to say that just before the exam, maybe 1 or 2 weeks before the exam, I found your free course, 5 days challenge for task 2. It helped me a lot, but as you know, writing needs more practice and more feedback.
Hmm.
Then after the first time, it was obvious for me that my main struggling point and the area that I need to work on was writing.
Hmm.
Then I joined the VIP course, UVIP course, maybe on February or something like that, in February 2018. I finished the course and then I went again to Cambly, but this time I was working on my writing.
Hmm.
My main focus was on writing. So I was writing maybe every day or every other day and getting feedback from a private tutor on the website.
Hmm.
Beside the review service you provide, I was working maybe 3 times a week, getting feedback from this tutor.
Hmm.
And I was lucky to find a tutor that his teaching method was very similar to what you provide in the course. So I was very fortunate to find someone that's working with this almost the same process or the same structure and this stuff. So it was easy to combine both of them together.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this was one of the most useful things I did in my IELTS journey. Taking the course, applying what I took in the course, and getting feedback from a native speaker who is an ex-IELTS examiner as well.
Hmm. Excellent, excellent.
Then I set again for the exam in May 2019, and this time I got my targeted score in the 4 section, for 3 of the 4 sections, and I failed in the listening. I got 7.5.
Not bad, but
Yeah, not bad, but
but
just half a
not
band. Yeah. Then from May 2018 until December 2018, I sat another 4 times for the exam, and the struggle was just to balance the score of the 4 sections together in one exam.
bad. Hmm.
This was the challenge for me. Like for example, an exam of them I got 8 in listening, but I got 6.5 in writing. Another exam I got 7 in writing, and I got 7.5 in listening, and so on. Until
Frustrating,
I
you know.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
frustrating.
very frustrating. Yeah, yeah. Until I achieved my goal in December 2018.
Hmm. Excellent. So,
Yeah,
so would you say that the two main things that you were struggling with were listening and writing?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, listening and writing. So let's focus on those two and give the people watching some advice on that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who need a band-aid for listening because they need to go to Canada, for example, that
Mhm.
requires the band-aid. So if you were giving some advice to someone who is maybe at a band 7 or a band 7.5 in listening, and they want to push up to a band 8, what advice would you give?
Right. First off, I think listening is one of the sections that needs a lot of practice,
Hmm.
and it is easy section to practice as well. I was practicing listening almost every day. I was solving exam every day in the listening. But my problem was with some sections in the exam. Like section 2 was always my problem in the exam, because this section they always provide some tricky like maps, like the multiple choice and so on. That these parts need a lot of concentration from you as a candidate.
Hmm.
So it was my main challenge in this part. And later on, I realized something on myself, and that maybe if you are asking me about an advice for the listening part, or the IELTS in general, is that the person who is taking the exam needs to know about himself and his problems and
Hmm.
work on them. There is no like a standard thing to do for each and every person.
Hmm.
Each person is a different case. For my
Exactly.
Yeah, for myself, I was getting the score I need when I practice at home, almost very easy. But I found out that maybe in the exam day I was a little bit stressed out, and I lose focus very quickly, especially in the listening. So I worked a lot on this, how to be completely focused, and I worked on not to get disappointed if I like miss one of the questions in section 1 and something like that. Just keep focusing. Just forget about this question, and you will get the score. Still, you have maybe 3 or 4 mistakes to do. No problem. Just
Hmm.
focus on the exam. So maybe solve your own problems. Know what problems about yourself in this section, and try to, if you have for example some problems in a certain type of question, just focus on this type of question. Don't solve a complete exam. In my last period before the last exam, I was only solving section 2. I was not completing solving a complete exam. I was just working on section 2.
Hmm.
So maybe this is for the listening part.
Excellent. So can I just circle back to a few things that you said? So you said that listening, it's easy to practice listening. What did you do to practice listening? Was it practice tests or just listening to English in general?
I was doing both of them. One thing that I did from day one is to take an English course beside the preparation of IELTS,
Hmm.
and this was very extremely useful for me.
Hmm.
An English course that is not related at all to IELTS,
Hmm.
and the website I used for this was providing an amazing method for teaching English that depends totally on listening. You are
Wow.
just listening. Yeah, you are just listening to English native speakers
Hmm.
doing conversation with each other. This is one lesson, and in another lesson, they are providing you with a short story,
Hmm.
and they are asking you questions asking you questions about this story.
Mm-hmm.
And within the story, they are giving you new vocabulary, new idioms, new grammar structures. They are teaching you these phrases and these grammar rules without talking about rules at all, in a
Mm-hmm.
very natural way.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one thing that helped me a lot in IELTS in general and listening specifically. And beside that, I was working on the previous exam provided by Cambridge, and I was solving exams every now and then, as I said, every day, every other day.
Because I think that a lot of people, when they hear, practice, they just think of doing lots of Cambridge past papers. And that's
Yeah,
just one small part of it. I think you have to do what you did, which is combine that with listening to English in general, because that's going to help your general English skills, help your listening skills, but also improve your vocabulary, improve your grammar, because that's all going to help you, especially if you're trying to get from like a band 7, 7.5 up to an 8.
yeah.
Just doing practice tests is probably not going to help with that, but improving your listening skills and your general English is really going to help with that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree with this. And as I said again and again, it totally depends on the person himself. One of the most important thing for a person that needs to take the IELTS exam is to know his English level before he go for any plans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I struggled over a year to get this score. And my wife, for example, she is much more better than me in English. So yeah, she started her journey only 1 or 2 months ago, and today I received her score, that is as my score.
Same as your score?
Yeah, she get maybe 8.5 in listening, 7.5 in reading, and 7 in speaking and writing, just by working on her English for 2 months only.
Wow.
So I mean, it depends on a person. Don't get disappointed from some person who get the score in only 1 month or 2 months. It depends on you.
Yeah.
Maybe your English level is not up to the level yet.
Yes. So
Be patient.
you work in software development, and when you develop new software, if there's a problem with the software, you don't throw the whole thing away. You find
Exactly.
out the exact bug in the code and you fix that bug in the code.
Exactly.
Is that, I'm not a software developer, obviously, but am I correct that you fix the specific problem rather
Complete.
than trying to fix the whole thing? Is that correct?
Right. Complete. You are not
That's exactly the same.
rewriting the software from the beginning.
Yeah,
You just focus on what is going wrong and
exactly.
redesign this part and solve the problem.
And that's the same approach that you should have with not only the listening part, but any part of the IELTS test. What is the specific problem that is stopping you getting to the score that you need? And you focus on that, fixing that problem, and then
Right.
you're going to see huge results. And that's the difference between, let's say you just go to a general IELTS course and they're
Right.
teaching you all these things that you were already good at, but they're not helping you with your specific weaknesses, and that's why a lot of people struggle, because they're getting treated as part of a group instead of being treated as an individual.
Exactly. And the same goes, for example, as you said, for all section. Like
Mhm.
for me in the writing section, a lot of people think that they have a problem in grammar, right? But they don't know what is the real problem with their grammar. Like, as I said, I worked with a private tutor on Cambly on a website. I was always thinking that I have a big problem with grammar. He was always telling me that you have a problem with 1, 2, 3 specific things.
Exactly. Yeah.
He pinpointed some exact problem for me, and that makes my task easier. I
Mhm.
worked only on these parts, not studying a complete grammar book or complete grammar course, which is very boring and will take a lot of time actually.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
going, if you went to the doctor and you had a problem, you had a broken leg, they would fix your broken leg. They wouldn't try and fix your heart or your respiratory system, or, they fix the problem.
Right.
Exactly
Right.
the same with grammar, with vocabulary, with listening, with reading, with anything. What are your
So,
specific problems, and fix those. So that's great advice.
yeah.
You also talked about losing focus. in the listening
Yeah.
test. That's a big problem, especially people who need a band 8. You know, remaining totally focused on what they're doing for the time, you know, for the whole duration of the test. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with that?
Uh, in the listening part, as I said, it needs a lot of practice. So a focus problem, I think, is something a little bit tricky to fix, because in the other section you have room to lose focus, no problem. If you lost your focus in reading, you have time to come back and so on. But if you lose your focus in the listening part, you will lose 2 or 3 questions, and that is the problem. So it needs to get used to this process. Just listen a lot and try your best to be focused all of the time about it. One of the practices that I did when I was practicing listening, that I was listening to it, doing the listening part on Cambridge book, for example, and then after I finished, I was going to the tape script and listening to the exam again, and that helped me to keep a complete focus on what I'm listening and reading on the same time. And that helps also on knowing my problems, knowing why I get this question specifically wrong, because he said it in a certain way, for example, that I didn't pay attention for. He changed his answer or his choice in the exam and so on. So I was doing each exam 2 times. First time I do the exam normally, and the second time I was reading the tape script while listening to the exam.
Good.
That helped a lot. And as I said, maybe listening to an English course and immerse yourself in general in an English context, listening to the news in English, reading the news in English.
Exactly.
If you have some friends that is a native speaker, try your best to talk with him. Sometimes, as I said, my wife is her English level is good, so I was trying my best to talk with my wife in English. Yeah, that helped me to be natural in talking in English.
I think that focus as well is about endurance as too. My son just came home. You can hear that.
Welcome back.
You can hear him going crazy upstairs. But I think it's about endurance as well. Kind of like, you know, if I want to, let's say I want to run 10 kilometers. At the moment, I can't do that. I can only run 5 kilometers. But if I want to go from being able to run 5 kilometers to 10 kilometers, I do 5.5, and then 6, and then 6.5, and then 7, and I just build up slowly, gradually. I think a lot of people need to do that with listening to English and reading to English and writing English and speaking English. Trying to, and you could even do this with movies or with music or with podcasts, trying to increase the amount of time where you're totally focused on what you're listening to or what you're reading, because often people can listen for 5 minutes and they're used to just listening to things for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then in the real test, you have to listen for a lot longer than that, and they just can't do it because they're not used to doing it. It's not because they're bad people or they can't do it or anything like that. It's just they have never done it before, in the same way that I have never, you know, run 10 kilometers before. And if I did that, I would be in trouble. But if I tried to build up and build up and build up slowly, gradually, it would be no problem, you know? I think definitely, you know, trying to do that with general English, like movies and podcasts and TV shows and things like that, really, really does help with the listening test. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
So now let's move on to writing. So writing and listening were the 2 things that you really needed help with.
Yes.
So what were your specific problems when it came to writing?
Yeah, as I said, the first thing was the grammars. The grammar, I had some mistakes in grammar, like the S. This is one of the point that my teacher told me. You have a problem with the S in general. The S of the plural, the S of the possession, the S in general you have a problem with. So I focus on this. I focus on also on some other problems that I can't remember now. But generally, I had a problem also in the structure of, I don't know how to say this, but I was struggling in making a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you read my sentence, you can understand, but you feel like there is something wrong with the sentence. It is not clicking together. There is something wrong with the sentence.
Was it
And
the matching the clauses together, linking the clauses up and things like that, or the ideas in the sentence? Or
look, frankly, I don't know what is the problem exactly, but maybe it's coming from translating from my native language.
yeah.
I'm native Arabic speaker, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So translating from my language, and I'm thinking in Arabic for sure, but I'm trying to write down in English. So
Mm-hmm.
some problems comes from here. So I worked on this, especially for my last 2 or 3 exams, by reading essays. And I was reading the essays that you provided in the course and the Band 9 essays you provided as well. And this has a huge impact on my writing, because I learned how to write. I learned the structure of some sentences, and I was putting my words in the exam.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Definitely. I
yeah.
think a big problem is people translating from their native language, because there's a different part of our brain that deals with translation compared to idea generation and language generation. So if you're translating, especially Arabic to English,
Yeah.
Arabic and English are not, they don't come from the same like
Yeah.
linguistic families, I don't think. If you can, German to English or French to English, there's some similarities, but when English to Vietnamese or English to Mandarin or something, or Japanese, or just
Yeah.
languages that don't really translate very well, then you can have all of these grammar issues, and it can affect really the coherence and the clarity of your writing, because it's your writing is often a reflection of your thinking. And if your
Exactly.
thinking is a little bit confused, then your writing can lack coherence sometimes. So
Yeah.
that would be, and I know it's difficult to think in English, but the more you surround yourself with English and the more you get used to and improve your general English, the easier that becomes.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I tried my best to think in English while I'm writing, but still I was in the idea generation part of the exam. I was thinking in Arabic, and I think this is fine. I don't know whether this is true or not, but it was helping me thinking of the whole essay or the whole letter in Arabic to make like a coherent essay in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So like I will just, let's say, for example, I will talk about the advantages of learning online, or something like that. So paragraph 1, I will write down first that it helps with a lot of flexibility, and this flexibility is coming from a lot of websites on the internet and so on. So putting the ideas themselves on my own language. Then when it comes to the uh, writing part, when I go and write down, I try my best to not to translate, but to write down and think in English.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if this is clear or not, but
No, it is. It is clear. It is clear.
yeah, this
So
will help me.
that's great. So thank you very much for giving
Thank
everyone that that help. It really does benefit people to hear from successful students and on how they help themselves. And I think just the advice that you have given is really invaluable. And what will you be able to do now? What is what are your plans for your future?
Yeah, as I said, I'm planning for migrating to Canada, so I'm preparing my papers and my application, and hopefully I will get it soon.
Excellent, excellent. Well, if you need any help in the future, feel free to get in touch with us. And thank you again for sharing that with everyone.
Thanks a lot, Chris. It's
You're
my
welcome.
pleasure.
Good luck. Bye bye.
Bye bye.